Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I am Blake Harrison, and joining me as always in a matching jumper, it seems, Stuart.
I've gone a bit Steve Jobs, look.
Oh, you have? It's not matching. You've got a roll neck on. You've gone very Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
I've got a walrus on mine. You can't see it. There's a walrus on mine.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm
quite jazzy.
Yeah, it's very jazzy. Not too jazzy. But just jazzy enough.
Yeah, I feel like I could kind of be like some sort of...
tech mogul.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could kind of be like a sort of double agent. Like, something a bit sort of cool. Like, just...
Okay, you've completely lost it there, mate. Tech mogul, someone cool double agent. They don't dress the same.
I don't know. I just feel like, just black trousers, black roll neck, just kind of like... I don't want to say lurking in the shadows because that sounds really sinister.
The 6'3" man's just lurking in the shadows.
Just hanging around down alleys. No, I kind of see myself in like a cool car with like a newspaper with a couple of aisles cut out of it, just like
a Bond henchman.
Exactly.
Like not quite Bond, not quite the villain, but like the henchman.
Yeah,
if you had all gold teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the milk tray man? I don't know if you remember that. It was way before your time.
No.
But yeah, the milk tray man wore this, and he used to just kind of like abseil through like the window of a beautiful woman's apartment and just leave a box of milk tray and then disappear.
Wow, that sounds like yeah, you could only get away with that in the 90s or 80s or whenever the hell that was.
Thanks for saying 90s, mate. It was the 80s, but I appreciate
it. Was the 80s, yeah. Adverts in the 80s. You can just walk into a woman's bedroom and leave some chocolates. It's fine. Wow.
You'd be smoking, of course. Yeah. Fantastic. Right, we're here today.
Wow, well, the good old days, they shoot with it, where adverts were very dodgy. All right. So we want you to get over to Fat Candy, who can give you some freeze-dried sweets. Pop over to fatcandy.com. Get yourself some old school sweets that have been freeze-dried and exploded into these huge sugary balls of goodness. And you can get a discount code from us, which is Sweet MMA. That's SWEET MMA for a lovely little discount on your Fat Candy freeze-dried sweeteroos.
UFC 312, Blake Harrison. What are we saying? Are we going to start at the top with the big boys?
I think let's just start very briefly. Is this one of the worst pay-per-views in a long time?
I'm going to be honest. If when I'm looking at the fight card here, it's obviously DDP, Strickland, Jiang, Suarez, and the next fight on the card is Talison Teixeira versus Justin Taffer. Look. Yes, Teixeira's 7-0, and I'm sure they're looking to give him a bit of profile. Taffer's 7-4, but that is not third fight on a pay-per-view, is it?
Nah. No, it's not great. I remember when we did a Q&A episode just before or just after Christmas, one or the other, and someone asked us this question, and I apologize to the person that sent in the question because I can't remember what their handle was now or anything. But they said, is Australia being handed like a bad card for UFC 312? And at the time, they had Jack Della Maddalena versus Kamaru Usman as the rumoured bout. And we were going, well, that's rumoured. If that's happening, that's great. And you're expecting Jack Della to be fighting in Australia. So I was like, well, no, that's not bad. You got 3 really good fights there. Your hometown boys getting a massive fight against Kamaru Usman, against the former champ. And, the rest of it is probably going to be very Australia heavy, so it's not too bad. But now, looking at it, the guy that sent in that question, you're absolutely right. It does look like they've been given a bit of a lackluster card. Certainly, if I was in America or Canada or wherever and you had to pay your $80 for this, I'd probably swerve it. I think
they're putting a lot of hype on Sean Strickland's name to shift this card, I think, because a lot of the casuals, unfortunately, are not going to be interested in watching Jiang, who I think he's one of the greatest fighters in the UFC. But I don't think the casuals are going to be like looking at that and going, oh yeah, I can't wait for this. But
yeah, maybe not. I think a lot of casuals that are new to the sport as well won't really know much about Tatiana Suarez because she's been injured a lot, so she hasn't fought very often. Yeah, I think Strickland, obviously, in terms of the Australian audience, seems to have had a bit of a weird love affair with the Australian fans. Like he beat Izzy in Australia, then he defend against Dricus in Australia, and the Australian fans seem to really like him. So make of that what you will. So yeah, I do think maybe they've been slightly hard done by the Australian fans, but hey, they've got a lot of local talent fighting on this card, so maybe it's good for them and good for their local fighters. So maybe the Australians would actually say, no, we're cool with this. Let's move on to the main event, the rematch. DDP defending his belt that he took from Strickland against Strickland. Was this the right fight to make? Because my question is, does Strickland deserve the title shot? He's had one win since losing the belt, and that's, I believe it was I've got here, it was a split decision over Costa. It couldn't have been. I'm going to double check that because that doesn't sound right to me. But I've written in my notes that he won a split decision over Paulo Costa. And Paulo Costa is 1-4 in his last 5. And his last win was 2.5 years ago against Luke Rockhold. So let me just pull up Tapology now and make sure I'm not getting that wrong about the split decision. Because if that's accurate, I just think to myself, how has Strickland earned a title shot?
it was a split decision.
Well,
No. Yeah, it was.
Have I answered I can't remember the fight, so I don't know if that was a bad scorecard or what, but
It was split decision. Yeah, June 2024.
if you get a split decision win over Paulo Costa, who is now 1-4 in his last 5, and his last win was Luke Rockhold 2.5 years ago when Luke, let's face it, pretty much passed it. I don't know how that warrants a title shot. What do you feel about it?
Well, a few things I can put in the mix here is I went and rewatched the first fight, and I think Strickland might have won that.
I scored that for Strickland, which maybe does make it, maybe he should get a rematch because mildly controversial.
And I don't think Dricus is the biggest star in the sport. In a weird world, Sean Strickland seems to be one of the biggest names in the middleweight division, if not in the sport at the moment. So I can see why they've made it, because it was a close fight. I do think there's other fights that might be more exciting in that division, but I'm not mad at it happening. I'm not mad at it.
Okay.
Are you?
Maybe a little bit, but it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, I don't think he's earned a title shot there. I think I'm trying to think who else you could have given it to, though, and maybe that is a struggle because we've seen Whittaker lose, Hamzat. He should be getting the title shot, but maybe that's come too soon after like the Whittaker fight. So yeah, maybe there's just not many other options at middleweight. But then we've just been talking on our last show after seeing what Imavov did to Adesanya about Carl Borralho. Now Imavov. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe timing-wise, this is the best they could do. In which case, is what it is. I rewatched the first fight as well. The immediate thing that jumped out at me was, isn't it weird seeing Sean Strickland in the black and gold trunks because he's the champ? It just struck me as really weird. I was just like, oh, that doesn't look right at all. Strickland in championship shorts just looks so bizarre. But yeah, I mean, I think there's something in that fight that jumped out at me that I think has jumped out at Strickland, and maybe I'm playing armchair psychologist here, but Sean Strickland came out with some kind of tweet or statement on a podcast or something or other saying something along the lines of, let's stand and fight like men in this fight, effectively saying, please don't take me down.
Yeah.
And Dricus came back with, there's no pacts between lions and men, which I quite liked. To me, that is linked to the first fight because as much as towards the end of the fight, Strickland was, stuffing takedowns. Early on in the fight, Dricus, whenever he shot, he was getting him down. He wasn't keeping him down. Strickland was getting back up, but it just maybe halted Strickland's flow. It maybe burnt some of his gas tank having to get up this big, huge man on top of him. And I think Sean is slightly worried about that for some reason, which is why he's come out with that statement about fighting like men. And it's so funny seeing Sean Strickland say stuff like that when it's like he's basically just a jab and teep machine a lot of the time. And
but
yet,
let's not devalue that, because in a weird way,
it's just not like but what I'm saying is he's putting out this thing of like, I go to war. You're not Justin Gaethje, mate.
Yeah.
You jab and teep, and that's fine, and that's skillful, as I think you were about to say, but it's not going to war. Sorry, I just had to clarify that, but go on.
No, I agree. But, you know, we've been scratching our head over this for, you know, probably nearly a year and a half now. It's like, somehow Sean Strickland's got in this position, and he's not the most exciting fighter to watch. His style, like we mentioned in the last show about MVP, you know, his style confuses fighters. Like, who would have thought that guy that he's just kind of walking forward in a Philly shell with that kind of weird little sort of, he's almost got that kind of Muay Thai knee bounce, and it's just such a strange style that looks like it's there to be absolutely exploited, but it's not. And you know, look what happened with Israel Adesanya. Somehow, like that seemed to, well, it baffled Izzy. Izzy couldn't deal with it. And so we're just seeing like this weird world where he is top of the tree, and his style seems to make life very difficult for a lot of fighters. And you know, it made it very difficult for Dricus to get the belt. And, you know, as me and you both said, I didn't think he won that fight. So I think this fight is very well deserved. Do I think it's going to be a bloodbath and a super exciting fight? Probably not. Would Khamzat fighting one of them be a way more exciting prospect? 100%. After seeing him evolve at the weekend, that will be a more exciting fight. But as it stands, we've got, you know, the two top guys fighting, and fingers crossed, you know, somebody gets a finish and we get something a little bit more exciting. Who do you back? Who do you back on this one?
I'm going Dricus, even though I did feel like Strickland won the first fight. It was very close. I do feel like Dricus had moments. I think if he can try and keep him down a little bit, that would really help Dricus out. But yeah, those teeps and those jabs, they're, you know, I'm not diminishing them. They are really accurate, really lethal. They do a job of just breaking down the fighter in front of you. Like Dricus's eye, I think even just after the first round was like, oh my God, like your eye's messed up just from one round of Strickland jabbing you. And so they are effective. But I just think there's that adage of, oh, when you're the champ, you get like 20% better or 40% better or whatever it is. Not always the case, but I do think we've seen Dricus do what he did to Adesanya, and we saw Strickland get a split decision win over Paulo Costa. I just think Dricus has more about him, and I think Dricus is going to win this fight. And also I want that because I'd rather watch Dricus versus Khamzat. I think that's more of an interesting fight than Strickland versus Khamzat.
I think you pretty much nailed that there, mate. I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, but yeah, well, we will have to see. Shall we move on to Jiang and Suarez?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. You touched upon it earlier. You know, Suarez has not fought for a long time, and has had a battles with injuries. And you know, I think we've all been saying for quite a while that this is the big fight for this division. This is the fight that I think, you know, could be the another big test for Jiang. Mm-hmm. But I was going through their records and looking at who they've both fought previously. I think when it comes to championship level competition, Jiang, he's got bucket loads more experience than Suarez. This is a big fight for Suarez, whereas I think Jiang's been at the top of the tree and fought the best some of them multiple times, and I think it's an interesting fight, but she's 10-0 Suarez, so you can't knock her, and sooner or later somebody's gonna be trying to take that belt off of the champ. But I think personally at the moment, I think Jiang is one of the best fighters in the UFC, and I think she's just really well rounded, and I think I can't see Suarez getting around it. The height difference is going to be interesting.
How big's the height difference?
Let me see.
I didn't think there was much in it. I thought it was only like an inch difference.
I thought it was more than that.
Suarez is big for the weight class. I didn't think she was that much taller, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, she's a few centimeters bigger. It's not as much as it looks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think Suarez is someone that you can see at 125 comfortably. I think she seems thicker and stuff, but Jiang, I think Jiang could go up to 125 and do well, but I think she's a natural strawweight. For me, this is so interesting. It's so interesting that they don't have backup fighters for this, because Suarez has really struggled with health issues over the years and injuries over the years. She won the Ultimate Fighter in 2016 and has only fought 6 times in those 8 years.
She's not fought since August 2023 with the win over Andrade.
Basically 18 months off. It is really tricky. And now she's going in and fighting the champ, the woman that's best of the best. This is a big ask for Suarez. 10-0, only 6 fights in 8 years, 18 months basically since she's had her last fight, and now she's fighting the champ. It is a lot to ask. I almost think of Suarez as the Chimaev of 115 because she's had the injuries, she's had the health issues, she's undefeated. She should have fought for the belt a long time ago. She dominates with her grappling. She's dogged with that, and she really dominates people. She is a bit like a Chimaev in a lot of ways of that division.
We should also mention, though, Jiang is not the most active of champs.
She's not.
She fought once last year and once in 23. So, that's not, if ring rust is going to be, discussed, then, she's not a super active fighter. She's not fought since April last year. So she's nearly, 10 months out since she's fought last. So, yeah, I don't think that, that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I've got a question for you at the end of this about kind of Jiang and where she fits in the sort of 115 GOAT conversation. But I want to move on to that in a moment. Firstly, I want to stick with this fight because I did a little bit of research. I watched Jiang versus Carla Esparza, where she won the belt. Jiang was incredibly confident in her ground game, and we've thought of Esparza as one of the best, if not the best wrestler at 115 while Suarez has been away. Jiang was right to be confident because she got like a second round rear naked choke or whatever it was that she won by. So she was right to go to the ground with Esparza and deal with her on the ground. Obviously the right decision. Suarez is way more physical than Carla Esparza, and I watched Suarez's fight with Carla Esparza, which took place in 2018, so it was a long time ago. Suarez absolutely dominated her. Got the finish at the end of round 3 as well, but absolutely dominated her. Esparza could not match her athleticism and strength. Esparza, a very, very, very good wrestler, but there was levels. And not only did she have the size, Suarez was a better wrestler than Carla Esparza. And so I'm thinking to myself, if Jiang is confident in her ground game, and she takes a risk and goes down there with Suarez, she could be in big, big trouble because Suarez is not Carla Esparza. She is certainly a level above, both in physical attributes and in skill set on the ground. So that's something I'm wondering about with Jiang is, will she be overly confident and go to the ground with Esparza, with Suarez, like she did with Esparza? Because if she does, she needs to be very, very careful. I mean, Suarez dominated in her last fight 18 months ago, as you said, second round guillotine over Jessica Andrade. I picked Suarez as my pick to be champ at the end of the year, so I have to go with Suarez. I've got to support my pick.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a lot to ask to come back after 18 months off straight into a fight with one of the best female fighters on the planet at the moment. But she does have an incredible skill set in her wrestling and her grappling. So if she gets her down, I think it's one of these fights where you go, I don't know which way this fight's going to go, but we will all know within the first couple of minutes how this fight's going to go. Like if Suarez gets her down within the first 3 minutes, this is going to be a tough night for Jiang. Whereas if Suarez shoots 2 or 3 times in the first 3 minutes and Jiang stuffs all of them, it's going to be bad times for Suarez. So I don't know which way it's going to go, but I think we're going to find out pretty quickly in the fight which way it's going to go.
Yeah. Okay.
So have you got anything to add before I ask you this GOAT question?
Give me the GOAT question.
Right. So I want to know, do you feel like Zhang's the GOAT yet, or how long will it be sort of before she is the GOAT? Because let me just run down a few facts for you. Jiang is a 2-time champion with 3 title defenses. Rose Namajunas, 2-time champion with 2 title defenses, but Rose won both fights against Jiang. So that adds a little wrinkle in there. And Joanna Jędrzejczyk, 1-time champion, but 5 title defenses. So who's the 115 GOAT at the moment?
I'm going Joanna.
Yeah, because of the 5 title defenses, I'm assuming.
And I'm just looking, I don't want to start looking towards the tail end of the career because it's it doesn't make for a particularly pleasant look. But just going on a tear, beating Andrade, Gedalia, Jessica Penn, Carla Esparza, Gedalia twice, obviously. I think, and she was so exciting to watch.
Yeah,
and I think when we saw her beat Carla Esparza in that first fight, it was like I don't think. Yes, we'd seen Ronda ruining people's arms, but we'd never seen a female in the UFC unleash striking like that, like ferocious striking. And she looked mean. She looked mean, Joanna, when she dip in the face-offs.
Oh, that was it was great,
terrifying. And it was like, she looked like scary, and her fight style was exciting, and that kind of foundation in Muay Thai, there was so much exciting striking in it, and I think that's why I would lean to Joanna. And look, I know that the other 2 you mentioned have got wins over her, but for me,
2 wins over her each.
Yeah. But
it's a really crazy division to pick your GOAT out of those 3, isn't it? They're so interlinked and interchangeable.
The other one as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is mad.
But I do think what Rose done getting that belt back for the second time was super exciting. And again, I don't think Rose has looked particularly exciting in the latter years of her career. I don't think that the world is super excited for a Namajunas fight like they used to be. And for me at the moment, I do think Jiang is one of the best fighters in the UFC. But I think in regards to GOAT status, I think if Jiang wins this and wins another one, then that conversation could be reopened. But I think at the moment, the statement
if she matches Joanna for title defenses, then she has to. Because if she matches her for title defenses and she's a 2-time champ and she's got 2 wins over her, it's sort of concrete, isn't it? It's like, that's it, it's done.
Do you agree at the moment, currently, that it's Joanna?
Oh, it is tricky. I think maybe I would lean Joanna.
Yeah.
But again, the fact that she's lost 4 fights to those 2 women that are also in the conversation really does damage a claim to the throne.
Yeah.
But you look at 5 title defenses, and that's pretty good. Rose only got 2 defenses. And both of those are rematches. Both of Rose's title defenses are the rematch against Jiang and the rematch against Joanna. Didn't beat anyone fresh. And then Jiang, as you say, 2-time champ, 3 defenses, but 2 losses to Rose. It's really interesting. If Jiang beats Esparza, maybe she's the GOAT. But if she gets one more after that, she's definitely the GOAT.
If you,
of 115.
If Jiang beats Suarez.
Suarez is what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
If Jiang beats Suarez, maybe she's the GOAT. And if she gets one more after that, she's definitely the GOAT. But it's a really fun little conversation, I think. Yeah. I like this one because I love the fact that it's also fresh and it's also immediate. You know, you can talk about GSP and you can talk about Khabib or BJ Penn and now Islam and stuff like that.
There's crossover in this, isn't there? That's what makes it so exciting.
These did all fight each other, which is really exciting about it. I love it. 115 is not the division it used to be, but at that time, it was such an exciting division. Rivaled a lot of the men's divisions as well. It was really, really fantastic division 115. I do feel like maybe it's been surpassed by flyweight over the recent couple of years. But yeah. Wonderful. Anyway, I'm not going to lie to you. There's not, and I think this is indicative of just the card that the UFC have put together. This is just, not every card can be UFC 300. We had a lot of fantastic pay-per-views last year, actually. This is probably, I believe, going to be the worst pay-per-view of the year when we look back on the pay-per-views. So for that reason, I don't have a huge amount to say about the other fights.
Absolutely. Well, all that leaves us to say is get yourself over to Fat Candy's website and order yourself some freeze-dried sweets using that discount code SWEETMMA. And we will be back next week to discuss everything that is going to be going down in UFC 312.
Bye.